When I first asked today's guest, Matt, to come on the show, his response surprised me. He told me he wasn't sure he was the right fit. After listening to so many guests, he felt like his work wasn't particularly remarkable or spectacular. But that's exactly why I wanted him here. Because most of us aren't CEOs, influencers, or climbing some corporate ladder at breakneck speed. Most of us are simply trying to do meaningful work, build a good life, and figure out how to balance the two. Matt describes work as something that can be tedious, busy, engaging, frustrating, and fulfilling, sometimes all in the same day. He believes it's possible to like your job without making it your identity. He values personal enrichment over promotions, experiences over titles, and a full life outside of work over chasing the next rung on the ladder. In this conversation, we talk about burnout, difficult workplaces, getting fired for trying to do the right thing, something that I learned from my best friend. I never knew he got fired too, setting boundaries, self care, perfectionism, and why growth isn't always about making more money. Sometimes growth is simply becoming more comfortable with who you are and what matters to you. Success doesn't have to mean climbing higher. But what if it were more about meaning to live better? Let's roll right in. All right. Welcome to the Work Sucks, but I Like It podcast. Today we have a special guest. He's my best friend for the past, oh crap, Matt, how long have we been friends for? Like six
Yeah.
years, 7 years?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
6, 7 years. There we go. So I've known Matt for a long time now. He's a buyer three at Mount Wachusett Community College. And I'm excited to have him on the show today because we typically have been categorizing entrepreneurs on the show and what we'll say 9 to 5ers. So Matt's going to really bring this unique perspective for working a 9 to 5. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah. So Matt's an epic toy collector, just for you listeners, and you can see behind him for the video here. And I just still feel like when I look at my Lego set, my set does not compare to like Matt's collection. So I'm still like bowing down here to the toy collecting god here. But so Matt, so define work for us today. Define work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess the first part for work would be, what I do for a job to afford the epic toy collection that while I think it is epic, I don't want you to minimize your epic Lego city because that thing is crazy and I love it so much.
It's only in the
Um,
basement. Yeah. Yours is like
yeah,
throughout the entire house. So that's what I'm like.
it's spread all throughout. It's like a growth. It's like
I
weeds. They're
love
just
it.
everywhere.
I love it.
Um, So yeah. What I do for work, I'm a buyer, like you said, at a community college, Mount Wachusett, in Gardner, Mass, and um, so what I do there is basically procure anything that the college needs. To the standard things that you think about, like pens and notebooks and paper and that kind of stuff, all the way to like we're buying trucks right now for like plows um, and also just kind of dealing with the construction projects that the college works on. So um, it's a lot of it's pretty busy, you know. Not sometimes it can feel tedious and stuff. So, um, but it's I find it really engaging in the sense that I come from the corporate world, which obviously that's where I met you. And even before that, in my previous career as a trucking manager, um, not exactly the fulfilling kind of work that makes me happy. It was making me happy. Um, you know, from trucking stance, like it's 24/7, 365, and I've been dealing with everything from accidents, standard accidents and speeding tickets, all the way up to uh, fatality accidents and trailers catching on fire and drivers
Wow.
rolling trailers and like there's nothing quite like sitting in your house trying to relax on a weekend and getting a phone call about, hey, this trailer caught on fire. So, and then obviously where you and I met, um, in the castings industry, um, that had kind of the I don't know, the less savory part of the things with the US government and stuff that didn't really align for me, um, to being able to now work at a college where, you know, we're talking about education, community, people trying to go there and better themselves. It's not, it's nonprofit. I mean, they have to make money obviously to stay open, but that's to cover expenses. The important thing is people going there to get educations and communities. It's not about who drives the bigger truck or how many Persian rugs we have or, any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, that's what I do for work, just being a buyer for the college. And then, the other side of work, the other things I do for a job are, trying to pursue interests outside of the actual 9 to 5 grind. Um,
So, Matt, so walk us through. I want to talk back to your work, but I love where the thread is now. Walk us through work life balance. You've talked a lot about work. Walk us
mhm.
through how you look at is it the right thing we should be talking about? Work and life. Should they be the same? Should be separate? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I think it depends on the individual. So, for somebody like you who you've got your job, the one that pays your bills, and then you've got kind of your other job, like your podcast and writing books, and um, you're really taking off with stuff, and a lot of entrepreneurial type people maybe don't have that work life balance. I've got a friend that owns a body modification shop in New Hampshire, and he doesn't necessarily have that work life balance because those people, people like him and other people, they own their businesses. And so for them, they may have a little more passion for it. They also um, can't necessarily rely on a paycheck. Um, so work life balance for them maybe doesn't mean as much as it might mean to somebody like me who's more the traditional 9 to 5. And I'm working to have a fuller life outside of work. Um, right now work life balance is great. I go in at 8, I get out at 4. You know what I mean? 4 o'clock, Matt's out the door.
Yep, love it.
Previously in those, not even necessarily where you and I met and worked together, but before, I would go in some days at like 5 in the morning, and I'm not lying when I said I would leave there at 11 at night and then have to be back again at 5 in the morning. Um, sometimes even all the way to midnight, and there just was no work-life balance, and it was very unhealthy for me because it was not necessarily work that I wanted to do. It wasn't work for me. I wasn't building a business for myself or anything like that. I was trying to make money for myself and maybe get promoted and that kind of thing.
Would you say you burned out, Matt, from like, with the trucks on fire? They literally burned out the trucks on fire on the weekend, but would you say you burned out?
Yeah, yeah, I burned out big time, the biggest probably burnout phase was when I was in West Virginia for my first kind of real job, trucking company that hired me out of college. And I'd moved around and been promoted a lot, but I got down to that West Virginia, location, and it chewed me up. Um, the customer for that site was a bigger retailer, hardware store type place. Um, so they're very demanding, and, we didn't have many days off, and it was 24 hours a day, and, but, it killed my relationship. I
Mhm.
moved down to West Virginia with my partner at the time, and her and I just fell apart. There were other issues. I can't blame it all on work, but there were other issues, and um, probably the worst thing about that is we had somebody committing payroll fraud, and
Oh,
I
wow.
wasn't allowed to say anything because this person that was doing the fraud didn't was the one person other than my boss that didn't report to me on site, because the drivers reported to me, the other office folk reported to me. This one person. Um, but when my former boss moved on to a different site, the first thing I did, of course, was point out the payroll fraud because it's not right. It's not fair. I'm responsible for what the financial numbers look like. So I reported this person, um, and I shit you not, I got written up. Um, yeah, I got written
Oh
up,
my god.
and then when I refused to sign the write up, I got fired. Um,
Wow. That
yeah,
sucks.
It it did, and, to have that kinda insult added to the burnout injury almost, and, um but you know what? It was very eye-opening for me, and, the next day I was in my car coming back to, Massachusetts, so, Never I only went back to get my stuff, and then I never went back to West Virginia or any of that again.
Now you might have told me that, Matt, and you probably did. I apologize for forgetting, but I didn't realize you got fired. So, like, we both share that as well. I got fired, as you know, from a
Yeah,
job too, right? So
yeah.
let's go back to that company, Matt, and just put on sort of your imagination hat. If there were one thing that you could have done at that company, other than the fraud thing, to make life better or work better, what would you have done? What should have happened to make work more sort of enjoyable at that company?
Um, I think for me personally, because, the company, um, I I was at multiple sites and some were better than others. In hindsight, maybe I would have stayed at my previous location in Pennsylvania. Um, I had it had its own issues, but I had a much smaller fleet of drivers. I had a much easier schedule. I didn't have any office folks that I managed. It was literally a one man show, which, sometimes does make it difficult. But I think I think just being able to find through it all, even at the place in West Virginia, if I was able to find some way to get a little bit more self care in,
Ah, I love that.
I mean, it, it it's hard when you're working that many hours. You come home, you got a partner that also is not from the area, and she's struggling too, and um, you're exhausted, you're stressed out, and you just plop down on a couch or you go out to eat together and whatever. So, but I think that in hindsight, first of all, I probably wouldn't have gone there. I would have stayed in Pennsylvania, but um, in this scenario where I went to West Virginia, I probably would have tried to prioritize some self care and trying my best to put up some boundaries around work. I do feel that sometimes it's out of our hands a little bit. I mean, you're talking about a 24-hour operation, and people have issues all the time, and it's a little difficult. I think that some of the negativity that arose from there, I definitely know that some of the negativity was my own fault. And I'm not one of these people that's like I was a victim the whole time, and life just kept happening to me. Like, I didn't handle things the best way. I'm human. But yeah, I guess I would have tried to focus a little bit more on getting some self care, traveling around the area a little bit more to make more of a full experience out of it versus just living in this house in Martinsburg and just being unhappy.
Yep. No, I love that. So, Matt, what are your thoughts with a 40-hour work week? Right. I know we've kind of talked about it in some sense, but can you just provide for the audience? What are your thoughts on a 40-hour work week?
Um, for me personally, I feel like 40 hours is enough. Um, you know, I'm I'm at a point now, in my mid 40s, like I'm not I'm not looking to climb that ladder, which makes me maybe a little bit different than the usual, right?
Mm,
And there was a time before that, where I'd be looking at 40 hours and be like, oh man, I would love to work just 40 hours. Um, it just wasn't happening. It just wouldn't happen. It's just work was too much. And then, you know, going to the place where you and I met was a little bit more of a structured thing. It was a little more than 40, but it was still same hours. And then, where I'm at now, and I'm actually working, well, yeah, it's 40, but I get paid 37.5 because of the breaks and the union and all
oh,
that.
yeah. Okay.
But I mean, back to the question about the 40-hour work week. I think, for somebody in my situation where I try to pursue more of a fulfilling life outside of work while also still liking my job,
Mm.
I think I'm one of those people that, the 40-hour work week is just fine. It's perfect for me.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, Matt, why do you think people want to climb the corporate ladder? You mentioned yourself that you wanted to climb it. Everybody has this sort of dream when they enter corporate. They're like, I got to climb the corporate ladder. Why do you think we do that?
Honestly, I think it's money. I do think there's a little bit more to it though. There was a little bit of so if I'm talking about that first employer, like you get out of college and they hire a lot of young people out of college, because they want to kind of mold you to their system, and it makes a lot of sense. Um, and there's a little bit of kind of some competitiveness there. You're talking about a bunch of people in their early 20s, mid 20s, whatever, um, and they want to make money. They want to get promoted. They want to show, hey, I started at this, and now a year later, I've been promoted twice, or what have you. I think there's a little bit of ego to it. I know for me, there was a little bit of that too. Like you want to be like, hey, I'm doing really well.
Mhm, mhm.
You went to school, you went to college for, if you got a bachelor's, you went for 4 years, and you worked hard and you got good grades, or you got the grades you needed anyway to pass and get your degree, whether they were good or not. Um, so you already kind of have instilled in you of just trying to do really well there in college and get a job, and then you get a job and you're like, well, now I need to succeed at this, and I want to really get after it. And um, so you know, I think it's those 2 things. People are trying to make more money, obviously, so they can have a better life or fulfilling life, and then there are those people that a little bit of ego. And I think in the beginning it was a little bit, for me it became more about just the financial part. For me, I worked with plenty of people my age that were more about the ego type thing, and they weren't afraid to maybe step on other people's heads a little bit to get there, and not do anything illegally. Maybe do some things that like I wouldn't done,
Mhm.
treated people a certain way. So I think, yeah, just compensation and that fancy title that you can put on LinkedIn, or tell people like, oh, I'm whatever now.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Matt, I was definitely that in my 20s. I was like, to your
Yeah.
point exactly, you get out of college, you're like, "Okay, I gotta achieve the next thing, succeed in the next thing," and it was like, "Okay, I wanna climb the corporate ladder," and I wanted the titles, but I was doing it. I like your thing of, like, kind of pride and with, the compensation. I was doing it to, I guess it was compensation, to get out of, like, the job quicker. Like, I was just programmed to get to retirement as quickly as I could, and I thought the shortest way to do that, quickest way to do that was to climb the corporate ladder, make more money. Of course, I burned out hardcore, right? I got fired and, like, all these other things, and it was bad. But so, Matt, you mentioned money. So I want you to kind of talk about why are we some people are afraid to talk about money, but let's face it, money provides for a certain lifestyle. Walk us through how you see money and work.
These days now, um, the I'm looking at money basically at this point. Like my drive in life now at this point is not money. Like I don't want to. Maybe I could have stayed in the trucking industry and been making more money than I am now, and been just really unhappy and really unhealthy. But right now, yeah, money is important, obviously, and I feel like it's more and more important every day now with kind of the way the state of the world is, where everything is so expensive. Um, but if that's it, to me, that's if you're doing that to drive for money, it's because you're trying to keep up with the expenses. That's one thing. Um, but let's just say it's not for that. My
Mhm.
goal is to just I make what I make to be comfortable. If money was my main thing at this point in time, I wouldn't be a buyer at a state college. There is no bonus potential. There is no, what I mean? There's no, oh, we had a really good year. Everybody's getting a bonus, like a increase, I guess. I get my increases, of course, but I could be making more. Maybe even where you and I met, if I'd gotten bumped up a little bit there, maybe I'd be making more than I am now. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just looking to money isn't I'm just trying to live a life where money isn't my motivating thing anymore. Um, I honestly don't even look towards retirement. And maybe it's a little bit of a different reason. My thing is that I just don't want to rush those last,
Mm.
I don't know, whatever it's going to be, 25 years, um, 20, 25 years. I don't want to rush through those. I want to, after all the things I put up with for years and years of working in places I didn't want to work, like, and now I get a place that I actually enjoy going to. I don't dread it. Like, I don't have the Sunday night dreads, like thinking about work or
Trucks on
anything like that.
fire.
Yeah,
I still
fatalities, like, you know, um, nobody's called me at the mount to tell me that somebody jumped off a bridge in front of their
Yeah.
truck. You know what I mean? Like,
Yikes.
those are calls you
Jeez.
hate. But, um, yeah, I don't have that dread. Work is just where I go to make money, so I'm not looking to rush to retirement or anything like that. Um, I'm al and also money is not my motivating thing there anymore. It's just to have a nice full life outside of work and also do a job where, like I said, it aligns really well with my kind of, values and stuff. Like, I care about education and that kinda thing, and it is more important to me than getting a trailer full of goods somewhere or getting these, raw materials for a casting or or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Buying somebody's rugs.
Yeah, exactly. So Matt, how do you stay motivated or how you when you show up to work, right? You said that money's kind of this thing that yes, it's important. So walk us through how you show up each day at work now. Like what kind of brings you joy aside from the paycheck, of course?
What keeps me motivated is just making the most of this opportunity. Um, you know, w working for a state entity like that, there's a lot of laws and things that I have to follow, and it's different from the corporate one. The corporate world will have its, "Well, these are our corporate rules, and of course, you can't break the law, but these are our corporate rules." But, when we're talking about a state job at a college, like, I need to follow these things, the same things that, like, a city hall would follow or
Mm.
any of these other things. They gave me an opportunity with 0 state experience, to come in there and do that job, and, there's the added kind of fun fact that, like, I went to that school before I went to UMass. Yeah, I got my associates there first and then went on to UMass to get my bachelor's, and, like, it's kinda neat to come back 20 plus years later and be like, "Yeah, I used to be a student here, and now I work here."
That's cool.
Um, yeah, and then, like, furthermore on the motivation is just learning the laws, the getting more comfortable with the state laws, and, part of my job is posting, like, invitations for bid or in requests for proposals, and, like, I have to post those on state websites and, draw up a document that has all the information needed for the proposal and stuff, so it's it's kinda interesting. It's motivating in that it's nice to be able to help people in a cause, like, with a need that they have, like, "Oh, we wanna get
Mm.
this vendor for this," like, we did vending machines, we did some other stuff, and it's nice to be able to have these people come to you and say, "Hey, Matt, I really would like to look for this," and, um, you provide them with a bunch of information, they're very appreciative, and the just the level of appreciation that the people around the college have for just, to me and probably to you or anybody who's working corporate is the bare minimum is just showing up and doing your job, but there,
Mm.
people just appreciate you listening and caring about what they have going on, and, I tell everybody there, like, if there's something that you feel like is is a rush, I said, "Don't be afraid to tell me. Don't be afraid to be like, 'Hey, Matt, this is really I'll stop what I'm doing,' because that corporate world thing did kind of instill in me a positive thing is just like, everything needs to be done right away. And if somebody there in a kind of a more laid back environment suddenly has a need, like, I don't want them to be afraid to ask because they think I'm just going to be like, no, man, that's your problem. Like, let me know. And then
Yeah.
it's very fulfilling to be able to make stuff happen for people. um, so I kind of, I'm motivated by that. I'm motivated by helping people there. I know what the impact it has on the community there at the college, and then just learning and trying to make the most of this opportunity. It's just it's so much different. And you know, um, in my prior to my last job, I tried so hard to get out of that industry. Like I tried, like I would try and try. I'd be like, well, I have a college degree, I have management experience, like, and I have financial responsibilities at that job and human resources, and I'd be like, "This would be I could sell myself, I'm a great pickup for somebody," and nobody would call me for anything that wasn't, like, just transportation, you know? Um, so to be able to make that switch out of transportation at that company you and I met at, and then continue that on to a new thing, that's motivating right there because it's like, I really wanna make the most of this because I was able to make a career change and then, make the most of this
But
opportunity I was
I think you
given.
hit something critical, Matt, right? So we get under the impression when I look at a resume now, it's like this person has 10 years experience at this job. But what you're kind of talking to is like you learn skills from different jobs that you can take with you to other positions. So I guess where I'm going with that is how do you see growth at your job today? Right? So you talked about, no, that doesn't lure you get to climb the corporate ladder or to, whatever. Well, how do you see growth today at work?
I see it as getting more comfortable and more fluent with these kind of regulations that I have to follow. Um, Becoming more and more sure of myself. I still have my gaffes. Um, there is a lot to remember, and then there's the added stress of life and things that go on outside of work. But so for me, growth is just becoming that person that's more and more competent, and people are able to rely on to get the right answers right away, and not have me sitting there stammering or you know I don't know, I'll get back to you, like, and that all just comes with time and experience, and that's something I learned in those previous jobs is just doing. I didn't know trucking regulations or anything when I got to college. That's not a class I took, and I had to learn all that, and I did. But for me now, it's kind of just getting better at it, being more competent. We have these meetings with other. So we have community college procurement people. We meet every few months on Zoom, and we just talk about what's going on at our colleges and what we need, and you know, can we help each other with stuff? And then we have the larger meetings at UMass with you know some of the state college buyers and procurement managers and such. And going to those now or being on those now, um, I feel less intimidated. Certainly on the ones with my community college colleagues, um, where I'm actually able to talk on those Zoom things or maybe offer something, whereas before it was more just kind of sitting there listening and being a wallflower because I didn't know a lot what's going on. So I can just see in that time since the last meeting we had a few I think it was last month, just the level of like comfort that I've had, and that to me is kind of the growth and the skills and stuff.
I love that. So how walk us through like one thing that a workplace culture needs to do to make someone like yourself feel comfortable to grow? What is one thing that is needed in workplace cultures today?
Well, I would say just patience.
Ah, why?
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes somebody can be hired and just honestly not fit a role for whatever reason. They were hired for something and they didn't work out. Usually, I think that has to do with a lack of effort or maybe a personality clash. But I think sometimes you hire people like me at the mouth, for instance. Like I went in there and I did my job interview. Um, my second job interview that I had there, I had the one on the Zoom and then I had the one in person. And it was very intimidating because there was 6 other people. There were 6 people in there interviewing me in this big conference room, and it was, I'm an introvert, so
Yeah,
that's
me
hard for
too,
me to.
as you know.
I walk into that room and I'm just like, what? Um, but you know, I went in there and my personality kind of shine. I had a good personality day that day, I guess, and it kind of shined through. And um, so just they they saw something in me at that point. I was very honest with them. I said I didn't have this kind of experience, but I talked about some of the nitty gritty stuff at our previous employer, and I think they were kind of like impressed with just the technical babble type thing, and so they've had the patience with me, to say, okay, Matt doesn't have this experience, this particular experience, but he's got this other experience. And even going back to my first employer, who, yeah, it didn't end well after 5 years, but I'll always be thankful to them for hiring me and just putting me in the kind of throwing me to the wolves almost. Not as bad as all that, but their thing was like, this is how you learn. So, um, but they also had patience. They had to have patience with these people, and it paid off. Like they would have this patience for you to learn and this and that, and that's how I became kind of good in my job there. I got an MVP award there and stuff,
Nice.
and
I love
which
that.
is kind of funny how it all just ended the way it did because
Yeah,
I did win
right, right.
awards there.
Yeah, 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 right.
um, but yeah, I think patience is the biggest thing. That just I'm not saying if somebody keeps screwing up, you just keep giving them more leash, but you know you shouldn't rush people or if they're new or whatever, like just have a little bit of patience with them because if you're operating based on fear, people are going to be afraid to make mistakes and they're just going to make them anyway now because they're too afraid to do something wrong, or they'll just be like a deer in the headlights, right? They'll just
Yep.
be afraid to make any decision at all.
No, absolutely. So, Matt, as a listener of this show, we say that success is not a matter of good luck, it's good skills. What would you say is the most important skill that you've been developing in the work that you do?
Just I guess for me, the skill that I'm kind of developing now is just not so much the patience, but like um,
Think of your character. What are you leveling up?
my
You
new
got
paladin.
exactly. You got Bale coming up in Act 5. I don't even know the new Diablo 4. So what's the what's the one skill that you're doing to level up?
I right now, so I'm kind of an organized guy anyway, but this particular job has made me have to learn a whole new level of organization because there's just so much going on. Like I kind of touched on the state stuff. Like there's a lot of things to know, a lot of things that can be screwed up, a lot of things that if they're not done in an organized way or a more timely way, like I kind of mentioned how the things at the school are laid back. But when you start talking about kind of the state stuff that has to be done, there is no laid back there, and that has to be done, or like certain construction vendors are not going to get paid, and that's not good. So it's more for me. It's been about developing more organization because I really need to keep on top of those things. Like I make a lot more notes than I ever had before. Um, I've always had like a notebook at my desk, but it would just be there for years and years and years because I would just keep it in here. Um, but there's so much going on that I rip through that notebook. I rip through the post-it notes, the post-it note on the computer even that I use.
Yeah.
Um, so it's this particular skill, which it's maybe not the most impressive skill, and it's one I kinda had before, but I've had to level that organization up because it's easy to forget and get overwhelmed.
But I think that's such an important skill today of organization, Matt, right? We have so many, they call it the paradox of choice, right? We have so many things we can decide upon. I feel like we need organization to figure out what the hell we're doing. Right?
Yeah, right,
You know?
right, you don't wanna always have people come to you and you forgot or you don't
Right.
know or whatever. I mean, because you didn't look into it, you didn't do the work or, I'm a big proponent of, like, if somebody sees me, um, upstairs eating lunch, reading a book, um or reading a book even,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly. Right.
on your iPad like I was doing today, I always tell those people, I said, "Yeah, just email it to me." Email this conversation to me because, um, I'm human, I'm gonna forget. I'm at lunch, I'm trying to read, and, if I see somebody in the hall on the way there, on the way back, or just while I'm sitting there, I may not remember and I need somebody to email me. So I'm always telling people, yeah, no problem. Just email it to me so I remember. So I have that. And, my earlier joke aside, it is kind of an important skill to have
It
because
is.
any job, any job, I imagine at the corporate world without any kind of organization, if I could try to do it without that, we'd be gone real quick.
It'd
So,
be a shit show. So, no, we definitely need the organization
yeah.
for sure. So, Matt, you talked about reading a book. And for those of you listeners, the joke is Matt is actually beta reading my third book on yoga. So, thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
So, I want you to talk about self care, Matt. So, you've kind of mentioned it throughout. What are some things you just talked about the book? What do you do for self care?
On the more, you know, healthier side, like health conscious side, like, you know, um, I started journaling.
Love that.
I've had a little bit of conflict or turmoil in my personal life, and the journaling has been helping, but it also helps just with, you know, stuff outside of that, just kind of what I'm up to. And, um, writing it down definitely helps versus typing it out.
Yeah.
sometimes at work, I will kinda make if I feel like I need to, I'll make, like, a draft email, just type my thoughts on it, and then just save it as a draft. So I have a few drafts in my Outlook right now at work of just thoughts and stuff. But, yeah, I try to journal. Yeah, I go to the gym in the morning before work. Um, I'm never gonna be in a weightlifting competition or anything like that, but it makes me feel good, to go there and get that kinda rock that out before work, and, um, I used to do yoga a lot more, but that's working its way back into my life, and,
Love
you
it.
know,
Get the Lord of the Rings mat back out, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah, gonna
love
go
that
do
thing.
some, power flow and nearly die.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right, the tone and flow, whatever the hell class that was.
Tone and
Jesus.
flow,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
that shit was
Uh,
crazy.
I'm surprised I didn't die.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. I've done that class, yeah.
and then, other things too, just like, you know, um, I took the drawing class last summer. As a perk from my job, I get to take free college classes, and I always wanted to learn to draw. So, 2 nights a week for 4 hours for whatever it was, 6 or 8 weeks, I was drawing and doing all that homework after work with 3 hours a night, and,
I love that you would
um
send me the drafts and you would, like, add to the drawings of, like, Godzilla. I'm like, "Yes, that is so Matt." I
Yep,
love it. It's like you're
and
doing
it's
these
so funny that
It's
it's so funny to me that the professor never, like, because she had to see the stuff, like,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
cityscape, it
Yeah,
was learning how to draw, like, 1-point perspective, and then the other one was, like, 2-point perspective, and it's like, here's a cityscape, and what goes better in a cityscape than the bat signal or
and
Godzilla?
clearly, I mean,
Yeah,
you can't have a city without it. It's
yeah, I mean,
like
that's every city I've been to has had Godzilla or a bat signal in it, so,
exactly.
um, yeah, it's funny though, it's just completely just ignored by her. She didn't even have a comment about it, which I thought it was awesome, but,
Was
um
awesome.
so, practicing drawing, and that's another one too, where it's like trying to level it up. I'm not great at it, um, but I try to keep at it and try to get better. I like to play guitar again. I'm not amazing, but I like to just do it, and so it's maybe more my productive type self care things, and then you know, I like to dabble in the video games a little bit, play a little
Dabble
Diablo
is
here
a
and there.
that dabble is a light word, by the way. Matt likes to clear the entire map, folks, okay? Sure.
You got to clear it all, man. You got to
You
clear it
do. I
all.
mean, you gotta get your money's worth, so but then
Yeah, I
talk
don't
to
know
us,
why.
Matt. I love it, I love it. So talk to us, Matt, about the hobbies, right? I love this, and I want you to kinda segue into retirement. So I guess, like, what are your hobbies? I love how you're passionate about them now. Why do you do them? I guess for self-care, but then segue into what is your thoughts on retirement?
I do the hobbies, you know, um, obviously playing video games isn't something that's gonna give me any kind of skill, my thumbs, um, but like the drawing and the guitar and painting like those little gaming minis that I painted
Oh,
that I
yeah, I
still try
remember
to
that. You
paint
did, like, the
sometimes.
little scenes too. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
it brings more fulfillment to my life because, you know, as much as I love my job, there's not a lot of room for creativity necessarily. Um, and maybe there would be if, like, this was a passion project or, I had my own business. Certainly I could see there being creativity, but there's not a lot of creativity. There's not a lot of way for me to kind of show my personality in certain ways. And so pursuing these hobbies is, a way to challenge myself outside of work. Like I said, my drawings are not great. My guitar skills are not all that. I mean, I can competently play, but nobody's going to be like, wow, what a savant. And, my gaming minis, yeah, they're painted. We'll say they're painted, but they're not
Hey,
going to
that
win any awards.
but that Christmas scene was pretty epic, by the way, that you sent me. I mean,
I love
that's
that. That
pretty
is probably my
awesome.
favorite thing I've done in my
That's
entire life.
yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, the hobbies are just they're a way for me to get more fulfillment out of life and experience things that I don't want to. I know you're not supposed to have any regrets in life, but I feel like people are always going to have some kind of regret at the end of the road. And I never want to be like, well, geez, I wish I had done. I wish I had really tried to draw because 'cause I've always wanted to draw because I like comic books, I like tattoos, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
I just like it.
So why do people wait till retirement, Matt? Why do people wait to do these things?
Yeah, I don't know, it seems like such a bad idea. Now maybe people have to work a lot, um, like a truck driver, for instance. If you're a truck driver and you only get when you're working, you only get a 10-hour break, and you're gonna probably spend 6 or 7 of those hours sleeping.
Mm,
And if you're in one of those kind of trucks where you don't sleep in it and you come home every day, maybe you have kids and you're trying to catch their game or just spend time with them, and you got a spouse, a husband or wife or something, or just a partner, and you may be like, well, I just spent 14 hours driving truck, working, and I only have X amount of hours. Like, I really should spend it with my family. So maybe it's a little bit of they don't have time because work is too much.
gotcha.
Um, but I think too, it's just fear of perfectionism.
What do you mean?
Sometimes
What do you
even
mean? Build on that, please.
when you start out doing something, and I've been guilty of it, like, oh, I can't get this right the first time. I'm not meant for this. I'm not cut out for this. Screw it. I'm not doing it anymore. And I think that sometimes that stops some people. Like I said, it has stopped me in the past. It stopped me from this drawing class wasn't the first time I tried to draw. Like, I got books and stuff, but I'm much more of like a classroom type learner when it comes to something like that. So, but I think perfectionism causes people not to do stuff. Like, I would love to do some writing myself. Like, I've got these like I like to read fiction, obviously, that, but for the listeners, like, I like to read fiction. I like fantasy, I like monsters, any anything a 13-year-old would read is basically what I say. Like, I like to read. Um and I get caught up in that too because I'm like, oh geez, I don't know that I could write as well as these guys. Well, of course not. Nobody can. The first time out, you know. Um whatever your favorite author is, anybody, that person's first work probably wasn't their favorite after a little while, and um but yeah, I think people wait to retirement, just combination of feeling like they don't have time, and
Mm.
maybe they legitimately don't, or feeling like they don't have time and they did have a lot of time, but they were looking at, well, I guess this is more of a modern thing, looking at TikTok or
Ah,
looking at Facebook
yes.
or time wasters that sometimes, I don't have Facebook or anything. I have Instagram, and sometimes I get wrapped up looking at toys on there.
But it's tough on Instagram, right? Like, I've been off it, as you know, and you would
Hmm.
always send me, like, epic Lego collections, and I'd send you, like, Lord of the Rings stuff, but, yeah, I've totally dropped off, I know, but it's so addicting, right? But you lose so much time, it's crazy
You
online.
do. You can just lose track of time, and it's just amazing. Like, really looking at this app ate up this many hours or
And,
something, or it just like made you sit there like a log after you're done looking at it. And again, I've been guilty of that myself. But I think that sometimes people have this perception that they don't have time, and they get into these routines of coming home from work and sitting on a couch, and then that's what they do all night. Um, and like I said, I'm guilty of it too. But
me too,
you
yeah.
have, yeah. I mean, sometimes
Yeah, we
you have to
all.
listen to your body sometimes and say,
Yep,
okay, yeah, no, we're just tired and burnt out. Like, we need to watch Lord of the Rings or
exactly.
Star
The
Wars or
extended version, by the way.
oh yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah,
there is no
clearly.
other version.
Yeah, well, alright, I'm just, making that clear.
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna watch it, anybody, if you haven't seen it, you're gonna watch. You got to watch the extended because you got to get the
Exactly,
full whole picture of it, full
exactly.
epic picture.
Exactly.
Um,
So, Matt, this is the Work Sucks, But I Like It podcast. What is something that sucks today with your work, and what are you doing to make it not suck?
um, thing that sucks is kind of it's gonna seem repetitive, but it's not knowing. The my confidence level is up, but you know, I haven't fully leveled that up, and so the thing that kind of sucks is just the amount of laws and regulations and that sort of thing that I have to learn. But learning makes it suck less, obviously. But I would say that's probably the only thing I can honestly say about this job that sucks right now. If we had talked about this maybe 2 years ago, I probably would have talked for 45 minutes about what sucks about
Yeah,
it.
right, right,
And
right,
if it
right.
was, a few years before that even, we probably would have needed a whole day to
Yeah.
talk about what sucks. But, um, it's just it's just about the constant learning. Um, the learning is a positive, but in some cases, it's kind of, just a negative only in that you realize sometimes like, "Oh, I still need to learn stuff. I need to." But yeah, it's just the one thing that just sucks is just how many state laws there are and little things that you need to know, and you can't really overlook stuff. So yeah, I would say that's probably the only thing, as maybe as boring as that is, like, it's just, um, the amount of regulations and kind of whatever you wanna say, red tape or whatever around certain things.
Gotcha. So, Matt, I know you're a big listener of the show, and I appreciate that. And again, best friend for years now. Why? I'm just curious, and I just want the audience to hear this kind of your raw answer. What, other than the fact that we're friends, right? So I appreciate you supporting me, of course. But why do you listen to this podcast? What is your hope to get from listening this podcast?
I listen to your podcast besides the friend thing because there are a lot of there's a lot of great advice on there, right? Like, you have a lot of, great guests on your show, where I have nothing in common with them, uh, but it's super interesting to hear everybody's journey and what they've been up to and how they got to where they are. But even if, an episode maybe, somebody is an entrepreneur or something, there's always something in an episode that I can take away. Um, I had heard the term about how, I don't have to go to work, I get to go to work. I'd
Yes.
heard that prior to your show, but it's something I'd forgotten about, and I know that I've heard it at least once, and I feel like I've heard it a couple of times on your podcast. Um, and it does help, like, just that one line from that one episode that I can remember about it. Um
Remember, I got schooled on that too because I butchered it too. So he told me I get to do it. So I got coached right there. So yeah, I clearly
Yeah,
forgot too.
yeah, and it
Yeah,
it it's we lose sight of that,
we do.
you know? Whether you wanna go into a bigger conversation about the people that don't get to go to work, like, and do the things we do and maybe make, a living where they don't have to struggle a lot, or just the fact that, like, we have jobs that maybe other people wanted and they didn't get. I assume other people interviewed for your job. I know other people interviewed for
Yep.
my job, but we got them.
Yeah.
So we get to go in and do these jobs, and I know you like your job and you're thriving there, and so you get to do that. I get to do what I do, and um, so about your podcast. Just for me, the thing I like most about it is just being able to listen to people and how they cope with life and work and stuff, and little pointers they might give. Sometimes they don't apply, but the conversations are always interesting. And then the things that do apply, like I keep them here, and then I write them down. I've got a little notebook in my lunchbox that I keep notes of, like, that's just for me. It's not a work notebook. And I will write down things from your podcast, or if I'm listening at my desk, I will write them down. I wish I could think of them right now, but
Sorry.
that's why I write them in the notebook. Um, but yeah, there were a few things from a few of your guests that I've written down on there that I wanted to follow back up on. So yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of great stuff in there.
well, thanks, man, for your feedback. And thanks for being on the show. Like, how cool
Yeah,
is that? You've been a listener since day one, and here you are guesting on the show. So, Matt, you're the man.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we were able to link up, and I wasn't sure if I'd be a great fit or guest for you, because my life seems a little bit more, um, not boring, but more typical, or whatever word you want to use, than some of the other people. And but I think there's value sometimes in what I have to
That's
say or
exactly
people
the
like have to
barrier I
say.
wanna break down, man, is that shit of, like, people thinking you have to do epic things. Like, you are already doing epic things, right? You're doing, the toy collection you have, you're doing drawing. It's just like, I just feel like, just be, and you are literally, if I were to say, not just 'cause you're my friend here, but, like, you're the perfect guest. because you're just being. You are being who you are. You're trying these things. Like you said, you admit that you're not great. Yeah, not everyone's going to be Michael Phelps and LeBron James and Tiger Woods and Mia Hamm, right? Most of us are average, and that's okay. And that's really what I want to celebrate on the show. So, Matt, thanks again for taking your time tonight and being on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here and talk to you about this stuff. It's great.
One thing I really appreciated about this conversation with Matt is how grounded his definition of success is. For him, work isn't about status, ego, or accumulating titles. It's about doing something that aligns with his values while preserving the time and energy to build a rich life outside of work. We talked about burnout, boundaries, and the reality that work life balance isn't always completely within our control. Yet, Matt continues striving towards healthier habits, better self care, and a more intentional relationship with work. Another point that stood out was his perspective on experience. Too often, we assume years equals expertise. We've all met someone who proudly says they've been doing something for 20 years, yet somehow they've never developed the skills that truly matter. And as Matt pointed out, skills matter more than time served. And if there was one skill he kept coming back to, it was organization. The notebooks, the sticky notes, the systems, the habits. I still remember Matt's awesome Frankenstein notepad, a reminder that sometimes the best productivity tool is the one you're going to use. Whether it's a fancy app, a legal pad, sticky notes, or a monster themed notebook, find your system and stick with it. That's the skill for today to be successful and not rely on luck. Because organization isn't about perfection, it's about creating enough structure to focus on what matters. Thank you for listening to Work Sucks, but I like it. If you enjoy this conversation, share it with someone who's trying to build a meaningful life both inside and outside of work. Until next time, keep doing work that aligns with your values, keep developing the skills that matter, and don't forget to enjoy the life you're working so hard to create.
And there's a wind that blows across the plains, and it sings.